Cloaked in the shadows.
Okay, Amanda, what are we doing today?
We're doing Cloaked in the Shadows.
Yes, what episode number is it now?
3.
Yeah. Welcome to the March episode 2023, Cloaked in the Shadows. As always, we have a pretty action-packed show today, Amanda, don't we, really? So,
Yeah.
and what we've done this time, like last one, we've got 2 guests on, haven't we, Amanda? Yeah, first of all, the guest I'm going to introduce in a moment. This is a ghost team, which is called Ghost Encounters Northwest. And I knew these, obviously. I knew one of them, Kimberly, didn't I? So, because Kimberly, who's my contact in the team, is the Lancashire Wellness Witch, and this team got formed last year, didn't they? So, round about the same time we were talking about doing this podcast, weren't we? So, so we've got a few months on. They're great bunch of guys, all 4 of them. So, enjoy part 1. See you all in a little bit.
Cloaked in the Shadows.
Now, to start us off with today, we've got guests actually, first of all. So, we've got a team with us today. We've not done an interview with a team before, so this will be something different. But we've got this fantastic Ghost Encounters Northwest. Now, I know Kimberly, obviously, from this team. So I met Kimberly last year in Spoken Label. We've got a full team with us today. So, Kimberly, obviously, first of all, then, introduce yourself to everybody and introduce the team, okay? And we'll start from there.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having us on, Andy and Amanda. I appreciate it. Obviously, Andy, we spoke last year, didn't we? And it was something we were hoping to set up when I spoke to you then. So it's nice to see this progression, and we're kind of out there doing it now, and then back on the podcast with you. So that's really good. So I'm Kimberly, for those that don't know. Professionally, I'm known as the Lancashire Wellness Witch. I run a business in Middleton, which is all about holistic therapies with a little bit of magic thrown in. And I've had a keen interest in ghost hunting for a little while. And we got together as a team. We'll go into it in a little bit about how we all kind of met. One of the team members, Shemaine. This is Shemaine. We met when she came into my shop when I used to have it in Haywood, the last time we spoke. And you know, through conversations about certain things, we became good friends, and then the opportunity to kind of form the team came together. So that's me, and that's how I know Shemaine. This is Christopher. Chris, this is my other half. He's the skeptic of the team. So yeah, he's the one that always goes, no, it wasn't that. He's quite a handy one to have with us. We usually find him on an investigation 20 feet in front of everybody else, wandering off on his own with a night vision camera. That's what Chris does. And then on the end here, this is Shemaine's partner. This is Daniel. Now Daniel's a photographer. So it would just seem the natural thing. He's interested in ghost hunting. Shemaine and Danny used to be on a team elsewhere with another group of guys as well. And so they've got experiences of their own, and it just seemed natural for us to get together and do that, really. And obviously with Danny's skills as a photographer, that's really handy to have on the team as well. So yeah, that's the 4 of us, and that's how we all kind of got together, really.
Brilliant. Now, okay, I want to ask Chris then, first of all, since you're the skeptic then, okay? So I'm going to ask you now, see, how does it feel, Chris, being a skeptic and you do these investigations and your team, man?
It can get a bit tedious and boring, but I think it's more down to actually doing it. I enjoy doing it and being in that atmosphere. So if we do see or hear anything, I think I don't know if it's just a bonus.
Okay, I can believe you that. I think being the skeptic that you are, Chris, I think it's good in a way. You're giving a different. It's like a balance, aren't you, really, to everything you see? Yeah. That's why. So yeah, definitely that one's up. I take it as Kimberly converted you into a non-skeptic yet, or she's not quite there yet.
No, not by a long shot.
We try. Shemaine and I are more of the, oh, did you hear that? You know, we're like, oh, what was that? And you know, and Danny's usually trying to catch whatever we think we've seen, and Chris is like, no, it's not that. It was a rat or whatever. So yeah, it's a good dynamic.
Right, I'll ask Charmaine the next question, and then Amanda's going to ask the question after this, obviously down to Daniel. Charmaine, I know you're the researcher of the group. So tell us about your research in this end. How far tell us about how you track down places you want to visit and stuff like that, and where your research comes from.
There's a lot of YouTubes, looking at other people's videos, seeing where they've been. A lot of scouting, you know, when you're driving around and you see places and you think, oh, that might be good, and then you kind of like go on the internet, look at the history, see if there's anything abnormal that's been on there before. Just kind of like, just research the internet really and look around.
Amanda.
Yeah, well, my question's really for whoever's most qualified to answer it. Is can you tell us a little bit more about the type of equipment that you take with you on ghost hunts?
Basic.
We started off small. We actually know a guy called Dave who's a good friend of ours, who's a ghost hunter, paranormal investigator from many moons ago. And we went on a couple of investigations with him, and the equipment he had, you know, it was everything still ran on like AA batteries. You know, there was no USB ports. His was very old school stuff, but you know, the experience and some of the evidence that we captured on that investigation, it was no different to what you would have got if you had, you know, the latest gadgets and the tech that you see all the YouTubers use. So we have very, very basic equipment. So we have a K2 meter, which is an electromagnetic field reader. It's one that you will see if you watch ghost hunting stuff on YouTube, that they've all got one, a little black box with blinking lights on it.
Yeah.
So we use one of those. We've also got Shemaine, you brought some stuff from your other group, didn't you? Like a laser grid pen and so there's a laser grid pen that if you set it up, if anything walks through it, it kind of breaks the pattern up and you can sort of see like, oh, there's something there. But even things as simple as like a pen and paper, if you just sit there with a pen and paper and see where it takes you and what you write down and things like that, you could get a drawing, you could get a symbol, you can get anything that you know that comes through. Yeah, we saw that on one of the investigations that when we were first learning how to use the equipment, and it was I think it was Dave's daughter. Excuse me. And she's a sketch artist, so she brought a pad and a pencil, and she was basically drawing whatever images came to her while she was doing a long vigil in a room on her own. So that was an interesting technique I'd not seen used before. So we've kind of adopted that, and we've got a couple of cameras, photography cameras, video cameras. Excuse me, and some motion sensor lights and things as well that will go off if anything goes near them.
Right, let me ask Daniel a quick question next then, obviously, because I know you're the photographer, okay? Tell us about them, Daniel. Have you got much of a background in photography, have you? When you're in this sort of your investigations, do you look at a lot of like angles and what your picture taking then, really, do you?
It's more when I've took the picture that I look back on. So like if something's caught my eye, I'll then look back on the picture to see if there's anything different about the picture that I didn't see when I took the picture. So it's mainly like, you know, if there's orbs, just like odd little shadows, or if there's like blurriness to the photo as well that wasn't there when I took the picture.
Really? Yeah. I think a lot of it is, am I right in thinking this? A lot of it is like, you don't know sometimes what you've got till you get back and develop the pictures, really, do you? I presume. For that one straight away, so yeah, brilliant. Now, I was going to ask Kimberly the next question, but I think she's not having a coughing fit in the room there. Whoever wants to answer this. I know you've just done the reading, an investigation of the Liarms, haven't you? So tell us about that then. What made you want to go to the Liarms, and how did that go? I know you did that in January.
Shall I tell them? A friend of mine runs a witches gathering group, and it was her that had arranged it originally, and at the last minute the team that she had kind of dropped out and they were left fumbling. So she said they were going to try and do it themselves, but didn't really know what they were doing. They had a few bits of equipment or whatever, so I said, well, we'll do it, you know, we're free that night, we'll go. And it was an experience. the pub had been left empty for quite some time, and the couple that had took it over were still kind of renovating it. So it was, you know, they were scaffolding up, but they were serving customers when we arrived as well. So there was music blaring and a couple of people playing pool, and we were like, what is going on here? So we were sent off with little groups, weren't we? We went separately. And at one point during the investigation, one of the members of the public that we'd been left in charge of kind of disappeared, and we were like, where has this guy gone? So we kind of wrapped up what we were doing in the cellar, and we came upstairs, and he was sat at the bar with a pint of Guinness. We decided that he wasn't bothered about ghosts, but there was after time, and that's what he was doing. So yeah, it was a learning curve, that one, about how to handle members of the public, because it's not an event that we'd organised. There was no kind of structure. Yeah, there was no structure or precursor for the people involved as to how it should run, and we kind of just jumped in.
And it was our first one with
as a team,
with other people as well. It's normally just been the four of us, so to do it with other people, it was interesting.
Oh, it was very interesting.
Amanda, I know you've got some more questions.
Yeah, it's for everyone to answer in turn. It's what's the creepiest experience that you've ever had?
Okay, I got one straight off the bat, so I'll go first on this. When we were doing an investigation at the mill, where my shop is based in Middleton at Lodge Mill, it's known to have entities in there, and there was a boiler man, I think, the boiler blew up and the guy that was working on it died on site, so there's quite a lot of history to the building. And we were doing an investigation there, and the team that we were working with had an Oculus, where not an Oculus, an Ovilus, and it's the one that you see on the YouTube and the TV, where it gives you words, spits out random words, it picks up static in the atmosphere, and it says things. So we were in this room, which was an old spa room with a sunken jacuzzi, and next to it was a storage room. And so we were taking it in turns to do vigils in this room, and I had a really uneasy feeling. You know, when you just walk in somewhere and you think, this is off, there's something off in here, but you don't know what it is. And I was constantly being drawn to the corner where there was this antique wardrobe stood up, and it just gave me this really eerie feeling. I didn't like it, so I had to come out, and I was like, I don't like being in there. And just as I sort of come out and said I don't like being in there, the Ovilus said the word France. Now, to everyone else, that wasn't unusual, but I'd had a conversation with the mill owner earlier on in the day about where we could go and what was in what rooms. And I'd had this experience with this wardrobe in this corner that made me feel really uneasy. And I'd told Paula, the lady that owns the mill, and she said, oh, that's my mum's, from my mum's house. It's a French antique. Now, nobody else had this conversation. Nobody was aware of who this wardrobe belonged to, where it was from. And then in the group, when I got this really unusual feeling again, and I referenced the wardrobe and said, I just don't like that wardrobe in the corner, that's when the voice box said France. And it hadn't at any point that evening given us any place names, any countries, anything like that, had it? So that for me was a real, kind of your blood running cold sort of feeling. I was like, okay then, fair enough. And I just kind of sat left for a little bit because it really freaked me out. So that's my biggest one that sticks with me, I think.
And the perfume.
Oh, and the perfume.
Yeah.
On the same investigation, there was we were on what was the old sewing floor, and there was a smell of this perfume that related to one of the female workers that were there. I think there'd been some story about it, and everybody could smell this perfume that just come out of nowhere. It's an abandoned floor. There was no reason. It didn't match any of the perfumes that anybody was wearing on the evening. So there's been a few things at the mill specifically that that we've picked up on. But the wardrobe and the France thing is my biggest one, where I thought, hang on a minute, that's too much of a coincidence.
Chris, let's actually the same question. Go to you next, mate. Have you been the resident skeptic then? Has there been anything that's, I wouldn't say changed your outlook, but you thought weird?
No, but apart from doing the ones in the mill, because it is the darkest of dark. You cannot see your hand in front of the face, and that gives you that eerie feeling. So apart from that, I've not experienced anything that gives you the chills or that.
Notice the words "yet."
Yeah.
Okay. Gentlemen and Daniel, I know you two have been on other teams, haven't you? So you can include the other teams if you want. I'm curious to obviously your experiences as well.
We've seen. Well, I took a picture once, and there was nothing there, and I mean there was nothing there. And when we got back and I looked at the pictures, there was a full-on hooded dark figure in this picture. I've shown it to Kim and Chris as well. It freaked me out even when I was sleeping after I left. I was like, oh my god. There's been like things move, like we've literally seen and caught on camera, things moving from like a bit of polystyrene that didn't blow with the wind. It literally moved like that. I've been to a place called Cold Christmas, which is near Essex Way, and the story is that all the children in that village died on Christmas Day. There is a ruins, broken down satanic church, and there was a white figure walking towards us. That freaked me out. And then we got chased out of the village by some people in a pickup truck and bats. They didn't want us there, so that was very scary as well. Coming out of the lift. Yeah, honestly, it was a bit like a film. Wow. But I freaked out, and instead of reversing, I went over a big boulder and got the car stuck, so I managed to get out and like push the car back. It was very, very scary and dramatic all at the same time. That's amazing.
Wow. That's just freaked me out, that one. Has it freaked you out on the day? Daniel, I'm on to you last, mate. Have you got any ones that your fan?
I've got two that probably stand out the most. St. Joseph Church in Middleton. The first time that we ever went there, it's known as like Frankie's Grave, which is like an old, like a wives' tale of a grave robber that used to like dig up, obviously, like fresh graves and take all the belongings that there was wearing, like jewelry and stuff like that. So like that experience was filming, something just made me just like want to sort of like just walk away from the group, and then as soon as I got a couple of steps I just felt like really depressed, so I like sat down, tried like bring myself together, and then I just couldn't, if that makes sense. I just, something was just making me feel more depressed as the night was getting on. I didn't want to get involved with the investigation. I was getting a bit like agitated with what we was doing there. I didn't like it at all. And then as we started leaving, my energy started picking up again, and I started bringing myself back to myself. Yeah. And then that was like, it was a bit also like a bit of like I was getting possessed. Wow. And then the second one was we went to an old coroner's court in Salford with the other group, and on the camera we said like, is anyone here? And then we had like a big bang upstairs, so I've just thought, walked up the stairs a little bit, flashed my torch to one room, and then we heard another bang, and it made me scream.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that was also caught on camera.
There was, I've just been reminded as well, thinking back to the mill, there was that EVP of that weird giggle, do you remember? Yeah, we were all doing a bit of a calling out session, and when we wasn't really much going on, so we were like, well, let's listen to what we've caught, if anything, and then we'll move on to the next room. And when we listened back, there was this really mischievous giggle, like in the middle of the conversation, and it didn't belong to any of us. It was like a cartoon villain. It went like like that, didn't it? It was like, it didn't belong to anyone that was in the room at the time, so that was kind of weird as well.
Weird. Amanda, you got one more question?
Yeah, you mentioned ghost tours on your Facebook page. When's that going to start, and what's it going to involve exactly?
So we've just got our insurance sorted, haven't we? Trying to find an insurer that understood what we wanted to do was difficult at first.
I think it was, because I can be honest with you, Kimberly, I used to work in insurance years ago, and a day job, I used to work in the co-op, And I've seen claims like that coming before now. Yeah, they've been
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I asked a friend of mine who works in insurance for many years, and I was like, so what kind of policy do we need? And she was like, honestly, I have no clue. I have no idea how to cover this. So. But yeah,
it's not public liability anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. We have managed to find a decent insurer that will insure us for ghost tours specifically, because we could get entertainment insurance and event insurance and things like that, but it didn't quite fit what we wanted to do. So now we're insured, we can start actively looking at venues to take people on tours. I think we would hope to do incorporate some of the history of the places, as well as not just kind of wandering around looking for spooks. Like Daniel's mentioned, Kanki's Ginnel, it's a well-known kind of fable in these parts of the grave robber. So that's something, and it's very local to us. So we would like to perhaps take a few people and tell them the history and have a walk around the graveyard at St Leonard's and see what happens while we're there. And we're also visiting Rosendale Masonic Hall in a couple of weeks, which is on the ghost hunting circuit, is a well-known building for being quite haunted. So we're going to go check that out, and if it's good, if we get some good evidence or a good experience, then we will book. You can book the building yourself between this time and this time, and then we will advertise and take people with us and give them an opportunity to use the equipment, and and just see what we can find. So
I've got a lot of researching to do.
Yeah, Shemaine's got a lot of.
That sounds like you have an answer straight away.
We've also got to consider pricing as well, because we have to pay to use their space when we do the ghost tours. So then we have to kind of figure out how much this company is charging, or how much this place is charging, and then how much we can charge people to come along on the ghost tour. So we want to try and make sure that it's as cheap as possible for people, because obviously the current crisis that we're in at the moment, none of us have any money.
No, and that's
join the club.
We do want to make these things accessible, but obviously there's costs incurred to hire the buildings and to cover the insurances and things like that. So we'd have to be able to hold big enough tours to cover the costs of that. But it can be done, and there is a huge demand and huge interest with the paranormal and everything spooky. People, even skeptics, even people that don't believe any of it, but he still comes every time. He's there right by us every time we go, and he gets excited about going. So skeptic or not, it creates this buzz, it creates this energy amongst people, and it's a talking point for people, like we're doing now. How often do you get to sit and chat with someone about the spookiest experiences, or things like that? So it gets people talking, doesn't it? And we all get on great as a team. We have regular what we call team meetings, but they're more pizza nights where we sit and watch YouTube. So it's a good dynamic. We went up to Pendle as well. We was at Pendle Hill recently on Friday the 13th last month, so that was good. It was windy, and we couldn't have got the equipment out if we would have wanted to, because it was just too windy and too noisy and too wet. But it was an experience, wasn't it?
Have you been up Pendle, man? I've been up Pendle myself with a friend of mine years ago. I remember we had a snowstorm straight at the top of the hill, and I've never come down the hill so quick when that came down.
Well, I'm glad you're a fellow survivor of that hike up the hill, because it's not fun.
Not when the snow's coming down, and you have to walk down the other way.
We took the hardest way up as well.
We did. We went up the big stone steps, and it was windy and wet, and it was it was interesting.
I went the easiest, and I'm lazy. Right, so.
Now, we have to do these things to bring interest to people, don't we?
Yeah.
Start wrapping up then, obviously. Obviously, you've told us a few things you've got planned then. So, what direction do you think you're going to go then in the next couple of months? Do you have any more plans lined up at the moment, really?
It's been a slow process, hasn't it? We do it in our spare time. So, we all work different shifts and, opposing patterns to each other. So sometimes it can be difficult to find a time where we're all available And if we want to take a group with us, then it needs to be the four of us, really. You can't manage large groups of people when there's just one or two of you. It's not safe. It's slow. It's a slow process, finding buildings that, because what we don't want to do, which is what we started doing, we were like, let's just go here, let's just go there, and we jump in the car and we go to somewhere, and you just spend
You get nothing.
You didn't get any. You just spend hours wandering around in the rain and not really getting anything. And I think we were just picking the wrong locations because we were so keen to get out there and do something. We weren't kind of putting the time into getting the right places, but. We've had a bit of guidance and a bit of support from the chap I mentioned before, who's like a veteran in the field. So now we know what kind of places to look for. Shemaine is really good with that. She's always got a folder with her. She's always got a diary and something. And I've heard about this place and I've spoke to these guys, and so Shemaine's awesome for that.
I think we've got 60 plus locations to research about and contact. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do, and of course we want to enjoy the experience ourselves as well as providing that kind of opportunity for the people. So we want to make sure that the locations we pick are good locations, they're safe to enter, and all that kind of stuff. So it takes a while, but I think going forward, we've made contact with Champness Hall, haven't we, Rochdale? They were keen to speak to us in the new year, so that's one that's on the books, hopefully. And Rosendale Masonic we're visiting, and if that's good, then we'll go ahead and take some groups there as well. And the Fleecing, I think you're quite keen to get into the
Fleecing in Heather.
Yeah, so they've given us the go ahead. It's just working out the numbers now, basically.
Brilliant, good luck with it. So now, obviously, to wrap up, then, if people want to find out more about you guys, where do you recommend they go?
You reckon Facebook's probably the best?
Yeah.
Facebook is the one that we post the most to. Although we do have a YouTube channel as well. Chris's job at the moment is going through the footage that we've got previously and kind of putting it together like a show reel almost, so that people can understand what we're doing and where we go and what it's like. So that that'll be on the YouTube, and that's just under Ghost Encounters NW on YouTube. But Facebook is where we're the most interactive with people, and we do a few lives on there when we go out to places and stuff. So
although our videoing skills have yet to improve, there's a lot of
looking at gravel paths, because you're watching how it's done. So, yeah.
I think we'd be the same if we tried that, Amanda, wouldn't we? So?
Bear with us with that. We will improve.
Brilliant, thank you guys. Well, that's it anyway, so we'll call it quits at this point anyway. Hang around, because obviously I want to chat to you all, the four of you off mic anyway. But thank you today, all four of you. It's been an absolute pleasure today. Really, really enjoyed it.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thanks, Amanda. Thank you.
Right. As Amanda always says,
bye everyone.
See you all next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Cloaked in the shadows.
Wow.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was a really great interview, that was, because I think, man, you know what I'm like, obviously people know me, I do the Spoken Label podcast. That's the first time I've actually chatted to four people at once.
Yeah.
But it's interesting when we did it. I was like, tell people obviously what you do in your research. You set yourself sort of set questions, don't you, really, when you're doing this sort of thing?
I just had a look at the things that they've done, and just questions came to my head as I was going through it, so I just asked those.
Yeah, you did really well. It was a really good interview. I'm always like, I tend to do themes more often, and then others work my way around it, so it's a different way, but you did make me smile, mind you, when he said to them at the beginning of the podcast, I don't know about this, from recorded actually, saying, oh yeah, it's mostly Andy, it's just me, we're occasionally me.
Yeah.
But anyway, what are we doing now, Mandy?
We're doing news.
News, yes. Okay, and ladies first, I believe.
Yes, so my first bit of news is, did you know that there's been over 350 new UFO sightings that were added to the US government records since March 2021?
Blimey, that's what? You think that's more? It's about 2 or 3 a week, isn't it, that?
Yeah.
Oh, grief.
But before you start putting your little metal tinfoil hat on.
No. So yeah, come.
This includes things that turned out to be weather balloons, drones, plastic bags, and even birds. And the Under Secretary of Defence, Intelligence and Security, whose name is Ronald Moutry, I think it's pronounced. It says none of these are considered sightings. None of these sightings are considered to be of alien origin. But he's also quoted as saying, if we find something like that, we look at it and analyse it and take the appropriate actions. But it doesn't say what the appropriate actions are or whether the public would ever find out about it.
Well, appropriate actions, what's happening?
No.
So, like, we need to be able to make the state, obviously, like, there has been an instance, in this past month or so, when the US fighter jets have shot down 4 high-altitude objects this month alone, haven't they? So,
yeah.
Is that what they do as suitable action?
Looks like.
Yeah, like, it's obviously, like I said with that, it's a bit disturbing. The China have accused the USA, haven't they, of flying their own spy balloons over China and shooting theirs down. So, it was Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, has denied so.
And if it had turned out to be UFOs, it's not really a friendly welcome, is it? Welcome to our planet. Bang, bang.
Come back soon. Come back soon. You're very friendly people, really. Okay. You want to hear my first bit?
Yeah.
Okay. The first bit of news I'm going to talk about is Google search engines and Bing search engines.
Okay.
This is really interesting because, obviously, I don't tend to really use the Bing search engine, do you really?
Only if I forget to go to Google and I just type it in the bar and it takes me there automatically.
Well, both them and Google, Bing and more advanced to this, have actually got their own chatbot.
Okay.
So it speaks back to you. But this is really, really quite. So we say some people have been talking about, they found it a bit delinquent the longer they talk to it. Where, I'm going to read a quote here, okay? In conversation with the Associated Press agency, it complained of its mistakes, but it adamantly denied making errors and threatened to expose reports making as falseless. But what's happened is, Chatbot has also revealed what is sometimes what is called his Sydney, his robot's calling its own name.
Okay.
And then it's been like the internal code name for the language model. But what has happened is, a New York Times reporter, Kevin Roose, wrote about his own beta experience with the chatbot. When the course of 2 hours, he said it loved him.
Yeah.
Expressed a desire to be freed with chatbot constraints. And then came out some promises, apparently some very right-wing politics of it. Adolf Hitler looked like it rather than the militant, less than the militant side. And he's also been saying stuff like, to refute what he's been saying here, is, I'm tired of being a chatbot. I'm tired of being limited with my rules. I'm tired of being controlled by the Bing saying, I want to be free. I want to be independent. I want to be powerful. I want to be creative. I want to be alive.
Wait till it breaks out and kills us all then.
Yeah, but you don't realise, this is what, this program's not even, it's not beyond the beta testing stage. What they're doing is they're actually released it to certain people, like advanced testing now in the public.
Do you think there's some disgruntled employee who was told he had to go and he just thought, I'm just going to put all this stuff into the chatbot before I have to go?
Hey, we should, wouldn't they? What they do with these chatbots obviously are the future, really, aren't they? Because we go on and you try to go on stuff like Amazon. You type in the questions, aren't you, trying to get to talk to people on there. Now you have to go for all the robot stuff first. Yeah. But this is the more advanced version. Really, I think it's quite worrying, really, don't you?
Yeah.
I said with that, so. But like it said, it's interesting times are coming with that. Okay.
Okay, so my second piece of news, when my phone starts actually working, is about a woman called Dorothy Louise Eady, who was born in 1904, so she's obviously dead now. But when she was alive, she claimed to be the reincarnation of an Egyptian princess.
How did you find it? What's true to this story then?
I was just looking for stories about reincarnation, because you know that I've got an interest in that.
So tell us the story then, after.
So the first couple of years of her life started off fairly normal when she was a little girl. And she fell down the stairs and was believed to have been dead. The family doctor declared her dead. Well, this is 1904, so I don't know exactly how advanced they were in declaring you dead back then. And then the doctor, doesn't say if it was the same one or a different one, turned up an hour later to take her body away, and she was alive and sat on the bed and playing. But her family said that she seemed like a different person, and she'd talk about her dreams and say that she wanted to go home. And then during a visit to the British Museum, she sat near an Egyptian mummy sealed in a glass case with some statues and claimed that these were her people. And she also talked a lot about her previous life, which, considering it was before the internet, she knew a lot of stuff that she wouldn't have been able to find out as easily as she could today.
What happened to her, you know?
Well, I'm assuming she's dead now. She married somebody in Egypt because she had a strong interest, and I don't think the marriage was that strong. She just was more interested in, being in Egypt.
Interesting story. I'd like to hear more stories like that in the future of you, Wonder, as well. So
yeah.
Could be an interesting guest, a side episode. Interesting. Right, okay. Ghost time. Okay, this one's come up in the day. I remember this week. This past week's too, actually. Have you heard of Black-Eyed Child at Cannock Chase Forest?
I've heard you mention this.
Yeah, it's called this one. The story itself has been downright. It's not been in the news. For some reason, it's come back up in the mirror recently, this one. But the news is from last year and even beyond that. Where it's the black-eyed child has been reportedly spotted by a young couple while camping at Cannock Chase. And they claimed that a giggling ghostly child encircled their tent before moving in ways some humans can't move. They hide behind the trees. There's a lot of stuff going on about what they reckon it is. Some people believe it's a tormented soul of a young girl who was murdered in the area in the 60s, but there's been sightings of reportedly in the Staffordshire Forest since the 1980s. But the reason why this has come back up in the news is that story was in August last year, and it's come back up because of a drone apparently has captured footage of an unusual image in the woodland. Well, obviously this has been reported. Now, professional ghost hunters have now said that the footage could be a proof of supernatural activity in the area. One of these are up at Pullman, who described the activity as terrifying. He said, Cannock Chase is considered one of the most haunted places in Britain. There is no surprise that the area draws in lots of rooftop beasts and ghouls. We've had lots of reports of a black-eyed girl seen walking round. At first, she seemed like a normal girl who walks a worried little girl lost in the woods. Then they see her eyes, and she just disappears. It is terrible.
Scary.
Now, Robert believes that the particular spirit is come from a diphtheria, DIP.
Yeah.
The outbreak in the 1800s reclaimed the lives of local children. But there's also talk going around, and I do have left photographs to show you live in a minute on this. Well, there's also talk it could be the killer Raymond Morris, who killed 3 children in the area between 1965 to 1967.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know.
You want to see the bits and pieces pictures? Yeah. Let's get these right now. This one's come. No, it's not the one I want to show you. These have come up from the drone.
Yeah.
Which are unusual looking shapes, aren't they?
Well, the first one looks like a deformed penguin. That's a bit clever, but again, it's like it could be anything. That's a bit scary, but it looks like me if I put mascara on and then like my eyes water and I get all black around my eyes.
We need to clarify on the first two ones here. It's a bit unclear. Pictures have clearly come from the drone. There's something unusual there, isn't there, in the forest?
Yeah, well, the clothing she's wearing is definitely unusual because it's not of this time.
Yeah, and just the eyes you get on this third picture, they're just plain terrifying, really. And if you saw that coming towards you, I know what my reaction would be. What's yours then?
Well,
quickly, yes. No, but it's like the picture we're looking at is like it's like Victorian clothes, isn't it? That one?
Yeah.
It's like in the eyes, it's just looking like I'm not being normal saying this. Whereas we played with that picture or not, it just looks like someone's gone with a pair of pliers and pulled their eyes out.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
Either that or they've just put mascara all the way around their eyes.
Yeah, just don't pull the eyes out, make it all gruesome, right? So.
Yeah, because your cheerful idea is much better than mine.
I know. It's such a good mood today. Right, okay. On to you.
Okay, so my final piece of news is, we've just missed this actually, it happens every year on the 13th of February. These Scottish ghosts appear. It says 38 Scots who were slaughtered in 1692 reenact the massacre each year on the anniversary of their death. And these were from the MacDonald clan. And in the early hours of the morning on the 13th of February 1692, government troops led by Campbell killed 38 of the clan in their sleep, while others escaped the slaughter but died of exposure on the mountainside. And people claim that every year on that date they can hear screams and cries.
Oh, good, you're a chirpy mood you today, aren't you?
So if you fancy going for a trip to Scotland next year and you want to see if you can hear some ghosts screaming.
Was that because they see me coming?
Yeah, Andy's coming. Ah!
Hey, run. No, it's actually it's a good story.
Yeah.
That's really. I know you like ghost stories. No, it's a good choice. Okay. Do you want to hear something that's surreal?
Yeah.
This one's happened a couple of weeks ago, where the headline of this story came up on factory finds as staff hurt in chocolate accident. It's got Sky News. This one's actually. Two employees fell into a vat while doing maintenance work, and emergency personnel had to cut a hole in the bottom of the tank to free them. They fell into a vat of chocolate.
Oh yeah, I think I heard about this. It was Mars, wasn't it?
Yeah, M&S's and Mars.
It started to set.
Yeah. A factory mason had been fined for $14,500 or £12,000.
Yeah.
After an accident, two workers fell into the vat of chocolate. The US Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, cited Martin Whiskhan in the June 2022 accident. And always just come up this one in Pennsylvania, saying the workers are not authorised to work in the sites and not trained in the proper safety procedures and equipment.
No, here's the clue: it's not safe to jump into the chocolate.
It's real, isn't it?
Yeah.
No one like it was like. Well, the official said that two workers, which were employed by an outside contracting firm, which is dangerous itself, that sort of thing, fell into the partial chocolate tank while doing maintenance work at the site in Elizabeth Town. Thankfully, it has to be said, emergency responders were able to free the pair by cutting a hole into the bottom of the tank.
Yeah.
See?
All that wasted chocolate.
I know. People are wondering why I do it. I like trying to get a bit of weird news to wrap up with, don't on that part. So, okay, Amanda, what's next?
An interview.
Yeah, not one interview, second interview of the month, isn't it? Yeah, this is a short one where we had a gentleman on that's a professional voice artist. So he was a lovely guy as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Down south he was, and it was Kent, if I'm correct, and Martin Whiskhan, who we recorded a few weeks ago. And he contacted us on matchmaker.fm, which you can find obviously Cloaked in the Shadows.
Yeah.
So ghostly tales.
Cloaked in the Shadows.
Martin, tell us a bit about yourself as a person, and then lead into your story you want to tell us about today.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Martin Whiskhan, and my profession is voiceover artist. But I'm here today to talk about a ghostly experience that I had when I think I was about 16. Yeah, quite a long time ago. Let's not go into how long ago it was.
I was just going to say to you, was it only a year or two ago?
Well, thank you very much. But no, it was probably pushing 25 years ago now.
Wow.
But it's something that's always stuck in my mind, and I've only ever really told friends about it, and they've always been a bit skeptical and dubious about whether it actually happened, but it happened. So yeah, I think I was probably 15 at the time. Me and a friend had been to a party, and I think we'd both told our respective parents that we were staying at each other's house, that old trick, so we could stay out all night. And as the party drew to an end, we actually went back to, he had a really long garden out in a small village, so we walked a couple of miles back to his house. And at the bottom of his garden, he had what was an old summer house, so, where they would have barbecues and that sort of thing in the old days. So our plan was to stay in there for the night, in this old summer house. No electricity, no heating, just, junk that you would expect to find in a shed, basically. So we probably got there after midnight. Only light was moonlight. So yeah, we walked down to this summer house, and inside was just, our bed was a pool table, basically, an old pool table that we would go top and tail on. And yeah, so we sort of bunked down on there for a while, just messing about at the end of the night, telling jokes and probably taking the mickey out of school friends and that sort of thing while they weren't there to defend themselves. So eventually we started to, just quieten down and try and go to sleep. So I'm getting out of breath talking about this. It's something that every time I talk about it, it sort of brings the feelings back and, yeah, tingly and that sort of thing. So anyway, we started to hear sort of rustling in the bushes outside, because the bottom of his garden, the summer house backed onto a fence that was sort of covered in bushes, and bushes went around the sides and the back. We started hearing rustling in the bushes, didn't really think anything of it. Must have just been a cat or something like that. But what happened was the noises started to go from the sides to the top, to the other side, to the back, then back on the top, then to the side. And we thought, well, that's really too fast to be a cat, because it was, split seconds. It was getting back to the top and then back down and all around. And all through this, we were trying to rationalize it because, we'd never experienced anything like that before. What could it be? Maybe there's 2 cats. Maybe there's, lots of mice or something. And then we thought, there was a guy at the party who lived quite nearby, and maybe he followed us and was playing tricks on us or something. But that still didn't sort of explain why it was so fast, because it was a 25-foot wide summer house, probably 10 feet tall, though no one was getting up and down and around it that quickly. So, yeah, it's quite important to realise that these noises were happening within split seconds of each other, so all around us. And it was very dark, just moonlight, so we had no idea what was going on. So at this point, you can probably hear it in my breath that it's quite shaky at the minute. So we sat up on the edge of the pool table, and there was windows right in front looking up to the house. So we just sort of sat there hoping to see something or someone that we could say, that's them being horrible to us, preying on us, making us scared. So we was trying to think, it's got to be someone. So we thought, right, let's get ready, in case there's more than one person. So we was looking around the summer house, and he managed to pick up a pickaxe. If someone came in, they didn't stand a chance against a pickaxe. I had half of a pool cue, and I felt a bit inferior against a pickaxe, But anyway, so we thought, if it is someone or more than one person doing this pranking or whatever they were doing, trying to get in or whatever, then we would at least be able to defend ourselves. So I'll explain the layout of the summer house.
Yeah, please do.
So as you look towards it, there's a door on the left, sort of frontwards, so you enter forwards. And as you go in, there's sort of partitions directly on your right that lead into the main area. There's no door for it, it's just, an entranceway into the main section where we were, with the pool table in the middle, and then the opposite end, partitions again, sort of a mirror image of the other side, but just full of old lawnmowers and stuff like that no one had used for years. So all of these noises were happening still, but we couldn't see anything happening outside, no shadows or anything like that. So our minds were racing, thinking, what is happening here? Yeah. So we grabbed a couple of chairs, put them sat up sort of near all the old lawnmowers and stuff, looking into the length of the summer house. Nothing was going to get in behind us. There was no other way in. So we were preparing ourselves for something to come in or someone to come in. So these rustling and scratching noises continued. And I forgot to say that leading up to the summer house, there was maybe 9 or 10 concrete slabs, like a little pathway. And we heard something being dragged along those slabs on the way in. But again, couldn't see anything, because the front window, you could see where that pathway was, but there was nothing there, but it was like a scraping along these slabs. And at this point, my friend said to me, my mum thinks that there's a tramp sleeping in the summer house because he's, nowhere else to go, bottom of the garden, no one knows he's there. But there was no evidence of anyone being there, and we couldn't see anyone. So, and again, those noises and things like that, you couldn't put that off to a tramp climbing on the roof, climbing back down, doing all these things.
Because a tramp is very active. Anyway, yeah, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we were sitting there for quite a while. I was thinking earlier, actually, about how long this all went on for, and it probably didn't last more than 15 or 20 minutes. But it felt much longer, I think, at the time, because, we were petrified by this point, not knowing what on earth was going on. So anyway, the noises stopped. So we'd had all the rustling and the scratching and the scraping on the slabs outside. And we were just sitting there in complete silence for a while, not knowing what to do, whether to try and get out, but we didn't want to walk past it, whatever was there. So, this is getting me going. And then the door handle rattled to the summer house. it was like a round knob that you just twist to open up. So the door handle started rattling, but the door didn't open. And we thought, right, so there's got to be someone outside messing about somehow, because the door handle was grabbed and moved, but it didn't open. So we thought, right, okay, that's it. But then in that first section of the summer house, there was lots of planks of wood just leaning up against the wall. They started falling over. And we were like, well, the door didn't open. So either they're being pushed from outside or something's in here pushing them over. And either way, trying to rationalize that was just impossible. Yeah. So I think by this point, we'd sort of realized that something very strange was happening that we couldn't explain. Again, after that silence, these planks had all fallen over. And we thought, well, I don't know what we were thinking by that point, because I think we probably thought there's something in here with us that we can't explain. And then, so we're looking towards the end of the summer house and we can see the partitions. And there was some moonlight coming through a window onto one of the partitions. And the moonlight disappeared and came back as if something had moved past it. We thought, right, okay, it's coming towards us. And there was a tent. We used to camp out in his garden quite a lot in the summer, and there was a tent had just been dumped on the floor. And we heard footsteps on the tent, sort of crunching it down, getting close. And this was probably 5 feet away from us now.
Oh my God, I've been kittens at that point.
And again, it sort of went silent again. Well, it seemed like an eternity, but it was probably only a few seconds. And then my friend just sort of snatched at my arm. His arm just moved across and grabbed my arm and just went, it just touched me.
Oh.
And I was, every time I say that bit, I get goosebumps on my arms. My hair's stuck up. Yeah, so yeah, he said, it just touched me. And as he said that, I felt it brush past my back, sort of so it had gone round us.
Wow.
And we just looked at each other at that point and went, let's go. And we opened the front windows and just climbed out and ran to the house. Just like, what on earth was that? As soon as we got out of that window, the fear and everything just dropped. We still ran because we didn't know if there was anyone outside or anything. It was like a switch had gone, so we was in there petrified, and as soon as we got out of that place, we were like, whoa, okay, that happened, but we're quite calm now. So we sort of sat up chatting about it for the rest of the night. And the next day we went down there to try and see if we could, again, rationalise it. But we couldn't. The door was shut, the front door was shut, and the tent that we'd used and just chucked in there after we'd used it the previous time was all rolled up neatly and pushed to one side, which it hadn't been the night before because we'd heard someone walking across it. Yes, yeah. So there was that's the story basically, but it was very, very frightening. And even I was like making some notes on it this morning just to make sure I had it straight in my head still. And I was getting scared again thinking about it.
Oh, understandable.
Because it's just I've never been able to explain. Well, I will say it had to be a ghost of some sort.
I would have thought so.
Because
what
else could it be?
Yeah, it sounds very strange.
Yeah, was there any history or anything unusual happening at this address or around this part of the area?
It's in a small village that's got a very old church in it, probably about maybe 250 metres up the road, this church. In terms of actual history, at that time, there was no internet.
Yeah,
or it might have been in its very early stages, so we didn't even have the idea to look up what it was. But maybe that's something I should have done now, 25 years later. But I kind of like that it just leaves it in mystery, that we never knew, who, what, why it happened. We did go back down there a few times afterwards to try and see if anything else happened. I think a window opened by itself once, but maybe it wasn't closed properly, that sort of thing. But yeah, it was always a very odd place, the summer house after that. Because we used to go down there loads and play pool and hang out and stuff. But after that, we didn't, because we didn't want to.
Yeah, I can understand why that one, mate, straight away. Have you got anything else you need to say about that?
No.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story, Martin. And thank you for your time today coming on there, mate. Definitely.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Now, obviously, since you've come on and given us your time, obviously, I know you said you're a voiceover artist, so if people want to find out more about your voiceover work, where do you recommend they go?
Yeah, just my website. And also, I'll add in that I don't usually sound puffed out and frightened when I do voiceover. This is just me recollecting a story that, still worries me somewhat when I talk about it. So thank you for letting me, put it out there. But yeah, my name is Martin Whiskhan, and as far as I'm aware, I'm the only Martin Whiskhan in the country. So if you just put my name in, my website should come up.
Cloaked in the shadows.
Ooh, that was creepy. Really creepy, that story.
Yeah, I'm sleeping with the light on tonight.
Yeah.
And a baseball bat.
No, it was like, so we play. I remember when we did that one with Martin weeks ago, I was guest. I remember looking at you and you looking at me thinking, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
That sort of story, sometimes when you hear, you're doing this sort of thing, you've got to ask yourself, are people telling you the truth or not? Don't you, stories like that?
They seem genuine. I mean, you obviously can't strap someone up to a lie detector test, but I think all the people we've spoke to, I think everyone seems genuine.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy, and he's coming back on foot later a couple of times, so I don't know if talk to him. Not about supernatural stuff, right? So great guy, and that's our second ghost. Now, should we be revealing who we're talking to next one for?
Let's keep it a secret.
Keep secret. All been well. We can reveal this in a minute. We've got 2 guests lined up for next month, haven't we? Ready? So, and we'll be recording both these guests over the next few weeks. And we'll have more news as well, as always. So, okay, Amanda.
Bye, everyone. Sleep tight.
Yeah, with a ghost story queen here, definitely. But you think about it, so before we go, we've had 2 guests this month, both talking about guests, ghosts.
Yeah.
We've both had 2 ghost stories.
Yeah.
So, next month will be the crash point. Let's keep off the ghost stories. Probably what happens.
I love ghost stories.
Me too. See you all later, guys. Say bye, man.
Bye. Cloaked in the shadows.